Welcome to the Microsoft Access course for beginners. In this course, I'm going to teach you how to create a simple database from scratch. And I'm going to teach you all of the ins and outs of Access while we're creating that database. But before we get too far into that, let me just start off by answering the question, what is a database and why would you want to use Microsoft Access instead of, say, Microsoft Excel? Because I think that most of the people coming to this course are probably going to have some experience with Excel, but have an idea that Access might serve them better for what they're trying to do. And if you don't have any experience with Excel, that's fine too. I really am going to teach this course from the very beginning. But most people who are interested in this course have probably been using Excel to do things that they should be using Access for. So let's talk about why you would use Access. Well, Access is a database management software. And databases are great for storing tons and tons of information and creating relationships between all of that information so that it's easy to sort through, easy to find, and easy to use. If you think about the last time you went to the grocery store and they're taking your items and they're scanning in the numbers for each of your individual items, what they're really doing is putting the number for, say, your celery into their stored database, and that database is sending the price, the description, any discount information for that celery back to the cashier so they can process your order. And if you're a member of a rewards program and you give the cashier your phone number and they enter it into the computer, that is also connecting to a database. And it's pulling up your information. Now, whether you like having your phone number in their system or not is irrelevant. The point is, they have a database that is storing your buying history. So it has information on how much you spend and the types of things that you buy. And that's all made possible because the grocery store has a database that stores and organizes and relates all of that information. And you'll see examples of databases almost everywhere you go. Anytime you log into a bank account online, or you do a search on Google or on Amazon, you're using some form of a database. Now, Access is designed to create smaller scale databases. Obviously, Google is using a gigantic database that would not be practical to create with Access. But the benefits of Access are that it is actually quite powerful, even though it is designed for smaller databases. It's relatively easy to learn. It's a little bit harder to learn Access for the first time than it is to learn, say, Microsoft Excel, but not too much harder. And by the way, by the end of this course, it's going to seem a lot less intimidating to you. And it's also much less expensive than a lot of other database management software. Access is great for doing solutions from the very simple to the very complex. A simple example would just be a contact list. That's a very simple version of a database where you just store all of your contacts and can generate reports that show alphabetical listings with phone numbers and things like that. A more complex database would be an order tracking system that you create for a small business. You can do one-time projects. My brother has a great example. He's an engineer and they track the wear on machine parts using a simple Access database. One of the advantages that Access has over Excel is that the tables, which are essentially like Excel spreadsheets, are relational. So you can relate a number of different tables to each other, and this gives you a lot of advantages. It makes data entry and analysis quite a bit quicker, easier, and more accurate. It saves you time because you don't have to enter the same data over and over. And it also prevents errors, user input errors. And we'll talk about that more in the course. But an example would be if you have an Excel spreadsheet and you're typing in a customer name, one person might type them in as Steve, and the next person might type them in as Steven. Then when you try to do a report, pulling up all of the orders from Steve, you're going to run into problems. You'll miss information because it was entered in different ways. In Access, you can create restrictions on the way data is entered and force them to select from a list of customers. So then your only option when you're entering would be Steve. There is no Steven in the system, so you have to select Steve. So then when you go to sort your data and sort through your customers to see how many orders Steve created, you don't have those same errors. And that's a really important thing that Access databases provide. Now, before we get into actually creating our own database from scratch in Access, I want to show you an easy way that you can just dive into Access and start using it right away. So we're going to play around with one of the existing templates that is already provided in Access, and this would allow you to go right in, and in about 5 minutes you could create your own contact database. So whether that's just a list of friends and family's phone numbers and addresses, or whether it's a more complex business contact list, I'm going to show you how to use one that's already created. And then up next in the course, we'll get into creating our own database from scratch. But if you're on the start page here in Access and you search for contacts, you're going to see this contacts template. So you click on that, and then you're going to name it and create it. Now you can go through this tutorial, you can watch videos on how the template works if you want, but we're just going to click on Get Started, and it brings us right into our contact list. Now of course you'll need to enable the content here. This is Microsoft's way of protecting you if you've downloaded something from a questionable source, but where this is an Access template, then you can just click Enable Content, get rid of that again, and now we're right into the fully functional database. And throughout the course, we're going to get into definitions of all these different parts of the Access database screen. But for right now, let's just look at tables, forms, and reports. So let's just see how difficult it would be for us to create our own contact list using this database template. We can go in here and we can type in a name, Steve McDonald. The company, we'll just call it Self. We can type in the job title, Instructor. And then we can select a category, Personal. We can add email addresses, phone numbers, etc. Let's put in another one, Bob Barnes. And here, we'll put in his phone number. Now I'm going to click down to the next line, and let's go explore the forms. I'm going to click on Contact Details. It pops up a form that has all of the details for Bob Barnes. Now if I want to go enter another one, I can click Save and New, and it's going to clear it and give me a new form. So let's just put in Erin Arnold. We'll leave her in Personal. She's also self-employed as an instructor. Let's give her a phone number as well. Let's give her a mobile phone too. And an address. And of course you can fill in all the rest of this information, but I'm just using this as an example. So we can either click Save and New, and that will bring us to a new entry, or we can just click Close, and that will bring us back to our list. Now if I refresh this, it's going to update all of the information in this list, and there she is, Erin Arnold. Now if I go to my directory, I now have Erin included in this alphabetical contact list. And if I go to my phone book, there she is with her business number and her mobile phone. So in this contact database, you can create these customizable reports, whether it's an alphabetical phone list or a complete contacts list. And that's something that if it was personal, you could email to your friends and family, or if you're in business and this was an employee contact list, then you could print this out. You could create a PDF or an email attachment, and you could send up-to-date customizable phone lists to your boss with just the click of the button. And that is only the tip of the iceberg of what you could do even with a simple Access database. Now what I want you to do is click on File and New, and this will take you back to the Start page where you can create a new database from scratch.